Welcome to the AI Business News Desk. Terry Sweeney here, contributing editor to AI Business, and joining me now is Dr. Maha Aziz, professor of global risk at NYU and co-chair in AI policy at the Digital Economist. Dr. Dr. Aziz, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So appreciate it. You've written about a predictive event called the AI precariat, a massive wave of jobs that disappear due to AI and the use of automation to replace basic or repetitive tasks. There's a bit more to it than that. Help us set some context for what this AI precariat is all about.
Sure. If you think back to before the pandemic, there was a lot of discussion about automation, that AI, automation was going to take away jobs in the retail, transport, food sectors. And at that stage, we were talking about this new social class, the precariats, people who felt left behind by the AI, the automation, because of automation.
Sure.
Now we have generative AI, and now, as you know, there are many studies and technologists also raising the issue that actually jobs in education, in law, in marketing are also going to be taken away. It depends on who you talk to, but it could be up to 50% of jobs in the next 2 years, according to Kai-Fu Lee, for instance, the author of AI Superpowers. And from my perspective as a social scientist focused on global risk, we're going to have more people, unfortunately, who feel they've been left behind by the next economic transition. And I think that will lead to this occupational identity crisis, where many of us, sadly, will feel that we're not quite sure where we fit into a global AI economy. And I think there will be a need to think about, to what extent do we have a sense of purpose? If we, especially for those of us who are young people who are in college, is their degree still relevant?
Sure.
What is their career path going to look like? For those of us who are older, I'm an aging millennial, what happens in a year's time if I'm told they don't need professors anymore? So I think there's definitely a lot of anxiety that's building, and it's leading to this growing precariat class around the world.
Well, this is buttressed by thought leaders in the financial sector who report that Wall Street, VCs, the constant question from them is, when can you reduce headcounts? When is AI going to automate these repetitive, low-level tasks? So it's not theoretical. The pressure is real on organizations to do exactly the kinds of things that will contribute to a precariat.
Exactly, and I think we should go slow, because let's also not forget there are a lot of studies that indicate, and one recently came out from MIT, they indicate that actually there's limited return on investment at this stage if you adopt AI and replace your workers. So I think we need to go slow and make sure we're taking into account the effect on the worker, the employee. That human component is really important.
Well, so sounds like it's great for institutional investors, maybe not so great for the rest of us.
Exactly.
Okay. Which industries would you imagine to be hardest hit by an AI precariat? And is there also a geographical component here? Will different regions of the world be hit harder than others?
Sure, and I'm fortunate to be able to travel around the world and talk about these sorts of issues at different forums and summits. And I think there's no question that all governments are trying to get on the AI train, and in terms of investment and adopting this as fast as possible to stay competitive on the global landscape. I think what a lot of studies have shown is that actually we're seeing more use of AI outside of the usual suspects. I mean, yes, US, China are definitely focused on AI, but you're also seeing a lot of AI engagement in smaller countries like Singapore, the UAE, and I think on some level the big powers are quite overburdened, with a lot as we deal with major issues at home and also, major conflicts abroad. So I think this is an opportunity for the smaller states, I think, to show leadership and engage. And I would also argue, and this has come up in my own research, that smaller countries and perhaps less democratic countries will be better equipped to handle the AI transition and the risks associated with AI versus certain democratic countries. At least that's what we've seen in our research.
What advantage do they have?
In the sense that they already have a history of, they know how to manage risks better because the society is more controlled anyway.
Okay. The
Whereas,
upside of fascism.
yes, unfortunately, I think
Okay.
that could play out, in Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Singapore, as I mentioned. I also have toyed with this AI anxiety index. It's a prototype that I've created to see where there's more anxiety about the AI transition. And to be honest, it's more in the US, UK, and France, and less in China, Singapore, Japan. And again, I don't know if this is an East versus West dynamic or democracy versus less democratic context. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, but that certainly should be part of our thought process as we try to understand the AI transition.
Just to continue this train of thought, is the precariat avoidable? And if not, are we able to mitigate it somehow?
I think at this stage, I think it's avoidable in the sense that I don't think the transition will happen as quickly as a lot of tech leaders and executives are saying because of the return on investment issue and other factors. But I think what's interesting is that tech leaders, tech companies have taken it upon themselves to commit to upskilling millions of people in parts of South Asia, parts of Southeast Asia, without any global regulation, without any global enforcement of this. So I think that is probably going to be key, the upskilling element. But yeah, I think at this stage, that's sort of the only tool in our toolkit. Let's make sure everyone has AI skills. So that's
Okay.
positive. Yeah.
All right. Well, Maha, you mentioned your work in risk, and you also lead an annual project at NYU with Wikistrat to crowdsource major risks and shock for 2026. Can you talk about what key risks come up regularly in your research?
Sure. In fact, we're running the project this week. It's a collaboration between a 10-year collaboration between my graduate students at NYU and crowdsourced consultancy Wikistrat. And as you said, we predict the risks and shocks for the coming year and through to 2030. The last 2 years in particular, there's no question that AI risks have come up a lot, particularly in terms of, again, the impact on the worker. Will that lead to anxiety, which bleeds into unrest in certain countries, but also in terms of the impact on mental health? I think it's quite concerning that companies like OpenAI have shown that their data reflects that 1 million people every week are engaging with ChatGPT with suicidal thoughts. And I think I'm not sure how that is going to be resolved, but I think the fact that AI tools are being leveraged in this way is significant. We do have indication that certain negative actors, hate groups, extremist groups, are also using AI tools for their, campaigns. That is also concerning. I think big picture, what we need to think about is where we are in the world today in our history. The post-Cold War era, from my perspective and based on our research, is over. It's not led by one country. And of course, this is a multipolar era, but I think what we're going to see going forward is that tech firms themselves are, in a way, the next superpower. And they have already have shown they have significant sway on the global stage.
Sure.
And they're filling that gap. Is that good or bad? I mean, I guess it depends on who the tech leader is and who the tech company is, but I think that's just something to be mindful of. And the rules of the game are not clear anymore. And I think that's a significant risk.
Well, I think you make a great point around widespread mental health challenges. I think the global pandemic
Yeah.
kind of woke us up to that, but the fact that mental health illnesses can also approach pandemic levels
Exactly.
is a curious take on something that we thought was mostly biological.
Exactly. I think the pandemic was perhaps the worst mental health crisis since World War II, according to the World Health Organization. And now we have this additional layer of uncertainty. It's definitely going to be a concern for us going forward.
Maha, real briefly, wrap us up with some thoughts around other AI risks that you worry about for the remainder of the decade.
I think the big question is whether AI is hype. Is it going to achieve what we are being told it will achieve? Will it lead to trillions of additional dollars in growth for the global economy? I think that's probably the biggest concern. And given the the millions of dollars, billions of dollars that's being put into the AI economy, and if it doesn't pan out, are we heading for a broad-based recession, I think that's a big concern for us in my world.
All right. Well, Maha, thanks for some really great and thought-provoking perspectives on AI and its cultural impacts. Thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We've been talking with Dr. Maha Aziz. This has been Terry Sweeney with the AI Business News Desk. Thanks for joining us for this segment. We'll see you next time.